Good afternoon, everyone. CTFSN welcomes all the family and friends to join us tonight. My name is Lena Esposito. I'm the CTFSN Bilingual Family Coordinator for the South Central region. I have the honor to introduce Amy Lopez, that is coming for Bloom Where Planted. Thank you all to be here with us tonight. I hope you guys learn everything about what is therapeutic horticulture, and how these plants can help you and your family. Then, Amy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me just share my little presentation here. Okay. All right. So, hello everyone. My name is Amy. Um, and I have a little small business called Bloom Where Planted. And see if I can get this. There we go. Okay. So, just a little bit of background about me. I have some experience working as a therapeutic horseback riding instructor. I've been a naturalist, and an environmental educator in a park setting. I've worked on various farms and grown vegetables and cut flowers. Um, and when I was working on the therapeutic horseback riding farm, I started bringing people into the garden that we had. This is a picture of the garden we had there. And I started a little garden program there. Um, and then in 2023, I created Bloom Where Planted as a way to offer visiting programs so people don't have to travel to the farm or someplace, and I could go in and visit people and bring things to them. So the idea is to kind of bring plant programs and plants and nature inside to people and kind of meet them where they are. Um, Especially for people who have some difficulties getting outside or mobility issues. So I bring all the plants and the materials from nature inside for people and kind of allow them to bloom where they are planted. And so today I want to talk a little bit about, some of the benefits of working with plants and nature. I'm going to talk about what actually is therapeutic horticulture, and then how I apply therapeutic horticulture and how I do my programs. And then there's some ideas that you can get started with tomorrow if you wanted to. You don't necessarily have to have me come out and do a program with you. And then I'm always happy to answer any questions. Feel free to throw any questions as they come up in the chat. So there's a lot of benefits to working with plants and nature. Plants have been shown to lower anxiety, increase attentiveness and memory, reduce stress, improve your mood. I think we've all have had some kind of experience where going outside or interacting with some kind of plant or something in nature has allowed us to kind of take a deep breath and relax a little bit. Um, it's also something that can spark creativity. It's something that can be motivating for people. It can also be something that while we're gardening or doing things in the garden, it can improve our physical health and strength as well. There we go. I missed one. There you go. Okay, so this is if you ever get really into learning more about therapeutic horticulture, you will definitely come across this study here. This is a really interesting study where they looked at patients who are recovering from surgery in a hospital and looking at patients that had a view through their hospital window of nature versus patients who had a view of just like a building or a brick wall outside of their window. The patients who had even just a view of nature had fewer complications. They needed less pain medications. They were less agitated. So even just looking at nature through a window can have benefits, not only for mental health, but also physical health as well. And then there's lots of more studies about all the different benefits that we can get from viewing nature, interacting with nature, gardening. I kind of lump all that all together. Um, these are a couple different studies about the restorative benefits of nature, including working with plants and gardens, not only for people who are aging, but also for young people as well. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but these are just some different examples here. And I have another page of examples. Um, nature sights and sounds can help you feel more relaxed, reduce pain. Even just like I was saying, viewing videos uh, of nature can be helpful. So it doesn't have to be working hard in a garden for a couple hours. It can be just looking at a video of nature. It could be listening to bird songs. It could be looking outside the window. So any little kind of interaction you have with nature and plants is going to be helpful in some way, whether you realize it or not. This is some more kind of benefits for our mental and emotional health when dealing with plants and nature. So some of these things are things you might just know intuitively, but have actually been researched for school settings, even again with that view of nature. Um, Students are more productive, teachers are more productive, they're more alert and attentive, they're more relaxed, they're in better moods. There's higher levels of creativity when you are around nature or see nature. It can help with symptoms of dementia, symptoms of that are of aggressive behavior. It can improve self-esteem. So lots and lots of benefits that we can kind of see coming from interacting with nature and plants. Of course, there's that stress reduction, reduced symptoms of depression, um, fewer symptoms of PTSD, um, very good for children with ADHD and ADD. There's a very strong restorative quality to being in nature. It allows us to kind of disconnect from um, having our focused attention on something all the time. Being able to be in nature or view plants or work with plants can allow us to kind of reset our system a little bit. Um, and I included this because I work with a lot of people with dementia. I know we're talking more about kids and families for this presentation, but this is just to show that, it's beneficial for all ages, lots of different populations of people. So that's another study there. And then moving on into therapeutic horticulture. So, okay, so we know that interacting with plants and nature is super beneficial for mental, emotional, physical health. But how do we kind of use this as a modality to work with different populations of people? So therapeutic horticulture, there is a kind of governing body of therapeutic horticulture in the United States. That's the AHTA. And they define therapeutic horticulture as the process through which participants enhance their well-being through passive or active involvement in plants and plant-related activities. So that's kind of the definition of what therapeutic horticulture is. Okay, let me get rid of my chat box in my way here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So some components of a therapeutic horticulture program, um, and this is through the definition from the AHTA as well. They engage participants in active or passive horticulture related activities. So it could be somebody that's actually involved in planting or working with a plant, or just somebody who's kind of part of a group and watching, interacting in a different way. Um, This is working with people who have an identified disability, illness, or life circumstance that require services. Um, the therapeutic horticulture activities is facilitated by a registered horticultural therapist or a professional with training in horticulture. And the participation is in the context of goals and missions of the organization. So it's not just, it might look like you're just planting a plant or you're just doing a craft, but there's actually goals involved and there's a reason that you're doing certain activities with certain people. So you might hear therapeutic horticulture and horticulture therapy kind of used in the same way, but they are actually two different things. So what I do is therapeutic horticulture, which is TH. There's another thing called horticulture therapy, which is very similar but a little bit different. So they both kind of connect people with an identified disability or illness or life circumstance that requires services with plants to create better wellness. Um, where the therapeutic horticulture can be kind of active or passive. Horticulture therapy is more active engagement. Horticulture therapy is more therapy. Um, it's facilitated by somebody who has training in human services with at least a bachelor's. So a lot of times it's actually a therapist or a social worker who has training as well as training in horticulture therapy. Um, and that participation is in the context of a treatment plan, some kind of more clinical plan. My my things in the way again. And it's more of an active process that's part of a treatment plan. So it's more clinical. So horticulture therapy is more clinical. It's with somebody who has specific training in both horticulture therapy and actual therapy and working with people. And then therapeutic horticulture, which is what I do, it's a little bit more like therapeutic recreation, where it's more um, people don't have to necessarily be working on a specific treatment plan. Um, their participation has goals, but it might not be as clinical. And it's something that we use to enhance well-being in plant through plant-related activities and through interacting with plants and nature. So, a therapeutic horticulture program uses natural materials and plants, again, to improve general wellness. You might be working towards certain goals, excuse me, like mental health or physical goals, memory goals, cognitive ability, language skills, working on coordination, self-care. So, there's a lot of different ways that people can use therapeutic horticulture to um, work on certain things. And the other nice thing about it is it's very adaptable. It can be adapted to any kind of group, any kind of individual. Um, so these are some examples of where a therapeutic horticulture program can be found. So this is a type of program that is very adaptable, so it can be found in a lot of different facilities, a lot of different ways. It can be um, working with a lot of different populations of people. It might be people working in a garden. It might be people working on a table in a facility. It might be people working on a farm. So there's lots of different ways that we can engage people with therapeutic horticulture. So some of the uh, things that we might do in a program like this. We might actually work in a garden. We might be doing weeding or planting, watering. We might be growing plants. We might be planting a garden. We might be propagating something. We might be propagating plants for a plant sale. We might be making some kind of creative project using natural materials or plants or dried flowers or something like that. Nature walks and forest bathing can also be a part of therapeutic horticulture. Vocational training can sometimes be a part of it. Mindfulness activities go hand in hand with this as well. And then in terms of the actual goals for some of these things, these are some examples of what a goal might look like. A health and well-being goal might be something like increasing the sense of personal health and well-being. A psychological goal might be decreasing feelings of stress and anxiety. And so if a group's goal is to increase self-awareness and healthy interpersonal relationships, we might have specific activities that would help us achieve those goals, working with our plants and nature. So that's a little bit of background on why we want to use plants and nature and what actually is therapeutic horticulture. Sorry. Um, So now I'm going to go into a little bit about how I use therapeutic horticulture and through my business, Bloom Where Planted. So this is kind of my goal here is connecting all people with wellness through plants and nature-based activities. So that's kind of the goal of all the programs that I do. So the way that it works is I have a kind of visiting program. I come to you. All that's needed is a space where participants can be seated at a table together. So I work mainly with tabletop activities. You don't need a garden or anything. A lot of the facilities I go into don't necessarily have a garden, or it's too difficult to get a group outside. Um, the programs I do are usually about an hour long. And each time I come and do a program, it's something a little bit different. So a lot of places I go to monthly, and so every month we have something different we're learning about and we're working on. Um, for example, this month, a lot of my programs were working with winter evergreens, so different pine and fir branches, and learning about how um, evergreens in wintertime are a really great source for wildlife. They shelter birds. They have pine cones that have seeds that little birds and animals can eat. And so we're talking about those kind of things while we have fresh evergreen and pine branches that we can feel and smell, and it's very sensory. Um, and we make a little centerpiece as well. So the way that I do programs, I have these three things that I kind of incorporate into every program. So there's always some kind of educational component. Even if I'm working with somebody with dementia or um, in a day program, there's always something that somebody can learn. This offers cognitive benefits and it also offers social interaction and stimulation. We get to talking about different things. Like I was talking about with the evergreens, we talk about how the evergreens are helpful for the wildlife in the wintertime. And so we learn a little bit about evergreens and we learn about the seeds that are in pine cones and things like that. We have something that's sensory stimulating. So we have those evergreen branches that have that nice smell. We have the different textures of the different needles on the different branches. We have um, a lot of, there's always a lot of sensory um, components to the programs that I do. And then with the way that I do programs, there's always some kind of activity that's hands-on. And so there's always some kind of planting or project that we do that then participants get to take home with them. So it's very hands-on. Um, we work on different coordination and motor skills. It helps ground people. And then it's also sometimes creative and fun and allows people to kind of share and socialize as a group as well. These are some of the facilities that I go to frequently, just to give you an idea of the types of places that um, have therapeutic horticulture programs. Um, so about half of what I do is kind of more memory care, assisted living, and then half of what I do is more kind of um, day programs for adults with disabilities and things like that. I do occasionally work with children in schools as well. I also do more kind of creative and educational programs at senior centers and community centers that are more open to the public. All right, and then here I have a couple examples of some different programs that I do, just to give you a little bit more of an idea of uh, what the program would look like. Um, So this, for example, in the springtime, I like to do a program around spring flower bulbs. So you can see kind of the program goals up here. That would be going along with this kind of program. So we would have some fine motor skills for planting, sensory exploration and stimulation. We'd have group engagement, sharing and communicating. We look at different kind of bulb catalogs. People like to find uh, the flowers that they've planted in the past or that really catch their eye, and we like to share about that. I have examples of different flowers. Some of them are very um, aromatic, like the hyacinth. So we've got that sensory exploration with the different textures of the flowers, the different smells, the different colors, and then we're planting. Um, so we get to do a little bit of getting hands-on and planting our own flower to take home and then watch grow. Um, So this is kind of how my program's set up, where in the beginning of each program, we kind of go over the topic. So we explore about what a flower bulb actually is and how it grows and the life cycle of it. Um, we look at the different catalogs, like I was saying. We look at all the different shapes and varieties. And then we usually end a program with the activity. So in this case, we're planting a bulb to take home to grow on a windowsill. Another example with some planting is looking at root vegetables. This one um, is very engaging, especially for memory care and assisted living, because a lot of people have memories of planting some of these things or had family that planted these things in their gardens. And then some people don't know how these things grow, like potatoes and carrots and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. Um, this one also helps give you a connection to food. Um, and so again, it kind of follows the same kind of formula of in the beginning, we talk about the topic, we learn a little bit, we do a little bit of exploration of, for example, in this one, I would have some different examples of root vegetables. So we look at them and talk about how they grow and stuff and feel the different root vegetables. And then at the end, we do our little project. So for this one, we were planting radish seeds. And then you get to grow some radishes on your windowsill. And then it's not always planting, especially for what I do, where I go into facilities. Not everyone necessarily wants a plant every month. People run out of room. So we might do something that's more creative with some um, kind of plant material. So, for example, in the summertime, I was doing these little dry flower summertime ornaments. Um, we were talking about dry flowers. So we had a lot of different colors and textures and smells again with this. And then a lot of good fine motor skills used here, where we're taking some of our flowers and putting them into a plastic ornament to make it nice and colorful, and then making a little tag with that said summer 2025 on it. And then you have a little reminder of some summer color to hang up. Um, I just recently saw one of the participants from this program who still had their ornament hanging on their walker, which was nice. Um, Another example of a project where we're not necessarily planting, but we're working with plants. This is a really nice one for any group, especially because it's just very sensory, very adaptable. So this is looking at some different herbs, and I would usually have the fresh herbs as well as the dry herbs, so people get to feel them, smell them. We talk about the aromatherapy benefits of smelling these herbs. Um, we engage kind of all the senses. We can even engage taste if it's appropriate with these. Um, and then at the end, we make relaxing sachets, which are just little cloth bags full of dried herbs um, that smell really great. And people get to take that with them. And here's just some more pictures of some different participants I've worked with. Okay. So that's about what I do, but you don't necessarily need me to get started with working with the benefits of plants and nature. Because, like I was talking about in the beginning, there's so many benefits of just even looking out the window at nature. So you don't need me to look out the window, and you don't need me to touch some herbs or some pine branches. Um, so it doesn't have to be complicated. So some simple ways that you might enjoy some therapeutic horticulture for yourself or for your kids or for whoever you're working with. Nature journaling is really a nice one. You can do that all year round. You have lots of different benefits from that, not just the uh, interaction with nature and plants, but you have the creativity, the self-expression. Um, you can plant things like microgreens. That's something that you don't need a lot of materials for. That's something you can do on a windowsill. You can just take a nature walk every now and then. You can take care of a house plant and be a little bit more mindful about it. So instead of just, going and watering your plant, you can actually, take a minute to enjoy your plant and uh, just be a little bit more mindful about it. Even just watching your birds out at a bird feeder in the wintertime, especially, um, you'll get some nice benefits from that, like I was talking about in the beginning. Um, and then there's some kind of things to think about when working with somebody with a disability, um, which if you are a family member or a caregiver, you probably already know all this. So I'm not going to read all that out loud. So inside, this time of year especially, we're not really out in the garden. So ways to get started now. It doesn't have to be complicated, like I was saying. And these are ways you can engage kids with some nature and plants too. Taking care of some house plants, propagating a spider plant. Kids love spider plants. They're really easy to grow. They're common. You can find them everywhere. They make little spider plant babies that you can watch the roots grow and put into new pots and share with friends. You can work with herbs in the winter time. That's a really great one because you can find them at the grocery store, and they are safe to taste. They're very sensory, so you can find very simple recipes for making different things out of herbs. Also a good idea for the holidays. You can make little herb gifts like sachets and stuff like that. And then you're getting the benefits of working with the plants and as well as, something creative and fun and sensory. Um, Microgreens, like I was mentioning, you can find directions on how to grow microgreens on the internet very easily. But honestly, all you need to do is really just put some seeds in the dirt and water them, and they'll come up in about a week. It's not super hard. It's something anyone can do. You can reuse takeout containers. You don't have to really buy anything except for some seeds. Same with kind of, this is another good one for kids, is kind of regrowing food scraps. Um, so I have a picture of some lettuce and the tops of carrots. So stick those in some water, see how they grow or don't grow. Experiment and just kind of play around. You can also do flower arranging in the winter time or all year really. You can get a bunch of flowers from the grocery store and just, make a couple of little arrangements. And that's therapeutic horticulture. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Um, in your garden, these are just some ideas to kind of um, add a little bit of um, something to your garden to make it a little bit more um, of a therapeutic landscape. So add some wind chimes, some fountains, a little fountain like this, a little tabletop fountain, um, are just different ways to add sensory components into your garden. Having a nice place to sit can make all the difference in the garden if you are finding you don't spend a lot of time outside, make it more comfortable for yourself. And then maybe you'll feel better about sitting outside in the garden. Nature journaling, again, you don't need a lot of um, anything to start doing that. Um, Picking flowers in the summertime, just noticing what's growing. Um, these are some tools if you are working in the garden, excuse me, that are a little bit more adaptive and can also help you if you're um, there. Some of these are just kind of ergonomic, so they can help you continue gardening as you are aging or as just being more comfortable. Um, so just thinking about ways to make it more comfortable for you can make a big difference in your enjoyment of being in the garden. So these are some ergonomic tools, a hose reel. Fighting with a hose can be terrible. Um, there's one of a PVC pipe that the man is holding here, and that is a way to plant seeds down into the ground without having to bend over. So that's something that's uh, can be easy to make. Um, and if anyone has any specific questions about these, I can talk about them. And just keeping in mind that, your garden doesn't have to be a huge farm. It could be planters, it could be pots. You have to make it work for you. So these are just some ideas of ways to make your garden work for you in terms of, if you don't have a lot of space, you can grow up, even just pots on a table. Um, there's a couple examples of raised beds. Um, and you don't have to do it alone. This is just some examples of some resources that you can find in your community. If you want to get more involved with gardening, sometimes it's helpful to not get started by yourself, but join a garden club, or a lot of libraries have seed libraries now, and they have programs, especially in the spring, related to gardening. Um, if you're needing extra support to figure out how best to work in the garden for you and your family, occupational therapists, physical therapists are a good resource as well. These are just a couple um, resources for making gardens more accessible. So these are specifically more about community gardens, but you can take ideas from it for your own garden as well if you're looking to make a more accessible space for yourself or your family. So these are different websites that have some different guides. And then I have my website, the AHTA, and then if you are looking for some ideas of kind of activities or projects, the Florida Horticulture for Health Network has a database that's free. That is the Therapeutic Horticulture Activity Database. And it has a whole bunch of activities that you can just take and use for yourself or for your family or for any kind of group that you're working with. So you can get some good ideas from there how to get started. You don't necessarily have to work with a registered therapeutic horticulturist or anything. You can um, find some things to do on your own. So that's just a couple more resources. And then that's it for my presentation here.